Welcome to Dad Tech, where we talk tech, toys, and gear for geek-centric dads. Today I'm super excited because we're going to be reviewing the new Arcade1up Marvel vs. Capcom arcade cabinet. For $499, you get a chance to relive all the hours, the days, the weeks, the months you spent, and I spent, playing these games in the 90s. I'm going to caveat this review by saying I'm probably not going to be the most objective reviewer today because I must have spent, I don't know, untold hours, probably thousands of dollars worth of quarters playing Marvel vs. Capcom in the student center of my undergraduate university. So forgive me if I'm a little bit biased during this review. Let's get started with how it gets here. It comes shipped completely unassembled. Don't be intimidated. It only took about an hour and a half for me to completely assemble by myself, and it only takes a Phillips screwdriver. It's basically like an IKEA assembly. Everything kind of bolts together. There's screws, there's bolts, there's kind of fasteners. Once you fully assembled it, it stands about 59 inches tall. I'm about 5'8", so not super tall. It's only about 22 inches wide from end to end and 19 inches deep. So from a footprint standpoint, really compact, should fit fairly well in smallish to medium-ish homes, as long as you carve out some space. To me personally, if you have a wall that you can put it up against, that's probably the best thing to do. You can mount it to the wall. It has some mounting options. The only reason why I say that is because I'm currently freestanding this thing. One of the issues that I have, because the risers aren't adjustable, is that there is a wobble. So I've had to put a shim underneath it to keep it stable. Just be aware of that if you're going to keep it freestanding, that again, it doesn't have the micro adjustments for the risers, so you'll have to adjust it by putting shims or cardboard or whatever the case may be to keep it stable. The cabinet itself is gorgeous, right? One of the key aspects of arcades, besides the lighting and the noise and the music, has always been the artwork of the cabinets, and Arcade1up really knocked it out of the park here. The artwork here is excellent. On the stool, take a look at that. Focus, okay. Artwork on the stool is also great. On the riser, it's great also. The left and right panels, we'll run some B-roll so you can kind of see what it looks like. But yeah, it does a great job of representing all the characters, or at least the major ones anyway. On the marquee, on the left and right sides, and on the risers. Again, phenomenal job of the artwork here. It really makes it more than just an arcade cabinet. It becomes a centerpiece in wherever you put it, right? It's again, not super big, but because the artwork stands out so well and is so well done, it becomes a centerpiece inside whatever room you put it in. So kudos to Arcade1up. They did a really great job there. In terms of the marquee, again, artwork, like I mentioned, is great. Not super crazy about the lighting. I mean, there's probably just a couple of bulbs there. I'm probably gonna do some work on my own and put some LEDs so I can control it. There's no real way to control the brightness or the color. You just kind of turn it on and off. Also on the joystick area, there is some LED work here. Again, really cool when it's in the dark, when you're playing in the dark. You can have it off, obviously. But again, a nice addition to that. The inside is only about 17 inches wide, and the viewable area is 13 inches on the screen. Again, not super huge. They did that to maintain the footprint nice and tight. But you really don't need that level of like resolution from a pixelized game like this. Highly stylized, so you're not going to miss it. Plus you're all up against it anyway when you're playing, so again, not such a super big deal. Key thing about the joystick though, it is clicky, as you kind of hear that, right? So it's not smooth like your typical arcade style joystick. Probably one of the compromises that they had to make in order to keep the cost relatively low. I'm hoping that through use and breaking it in, that this will get smoother, but again, something to be aware of. Just, you know, when you're playing, that's something different that you might have to account for. On the other hand, the buttons are great, right? So the feedback, there's no latency. Really great job of like keeping like real style feel of arcade buttons. Not too much other buttons going on. You know, first player, second player select, on and off. You can turn on the volume here. Speaking of volume, one of the other defining characteristics for me of video games, especially these types of arcade games, is the music, are the sound effects. And again, they knocked it out of the park. There's only 2 speakers here, but because it is relatively enclosed, it's loud enough. Again, this is not, you know, you're not talking about Dolby Atmos here, but it does the job. I'm gonna give you a little taste. So this is like half. So relatively loud, right? And you can go all the way up. Again, plenty loud enough in whatever room that you put it in. Plus, you're gonna be right up against it playing with somebody, so it's not like you're gonna need it to be that loud. Speaking of kind of width, one of the issues, especially nowadays, if you will be playing with an adult, you'll definitely be violating some social distancing rules. There's not a lot of space here if you put two grown adults. You will have to go to the side a little bit, especially if you're dealing with a couple of big guys, right? Again, they're trying to keep the footprint relatively low, but just be aware that it's not super wide here. Other than that, the cabinet is well made. Again, you're assembling it on your own, but really it's lightweight. It's light enough, but it feels sturdy. Like I mentioned, the only gripe that I had was the fact that it doesn't do a good job of staying balanced. You're gonna have to do something if you don't mount it to a wall. But in general, it's pretty good. The unit includes 5 games: Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems, which is a side-scrolling game, Marvel vs. Street Fighter, and then Marvel vs. Capcom. So you really will not get bored. There's so many characters to play. Another cool aspect of this, it's relatively new, I think they only had it on the NBA Jam version, is online play. So you can log on, I logged on, you create an account with Arcade1up, there's a matchmaking system, and you're online and playing in a matter of minutes. So I didn't experience any latency. I played about maybe 15 games online so far, never had any issues with latency. It takes about 30 seconds to about 3 minutes to get into a game, depending on what time of the day you're playing at. I have gigabit internet in my house, so your mileage may vary on the latency, but I never saw any. Again, it's a great way to kind of just jump in, play with somebody online, kind of hop off. Again, there's a matchmaking system. You play games, you win, you lose, you go up and down the rankings. That's kind of how they match you. You're generally playing somebody within 1 or 2 levels of you. All these games are arcade staples in the 1990s, so you should be very, very familiar with all of them. I've gotten my 9-year-old into it, so he's busy trying to learn and watch YouTube videos of like how to do moves for certain characters, so it's great that we've got him involved in that. Just in general, overall, my thoughts on the system: for $500, this has all the trappings of our typical arcade experience, right? Normally you'd have to pay thousands of dollars, carve out a ton of space in your home to get something like this installed. Arcade1up has really done a good job of, making that compromise. It's still $500. It's not cheap by any means, but again, in relative terms, to get this level of experience, this level of quality for that amount of money, again, it's great. I definitely highly recommend this to anybody who is into arcades, into X-Men vs. Street Fighter. It's a transformative experience. As soon as you start playing, you'll feel like you're a teenager again. And again, with 2020 being what it is, every so often you just need to be transported back in time to when days were simpler, right? So this does a good job of doing that. Like I said, for $500, I do not regret this purchase. Like I mentioned, my kid is into it. I'm into it. We're playing each other. We're playing online. Again, you can't go wrong. It's Christmas time. Give yourself a present. It's been a rough 2020. You deserve this. Treat yourself, right? Tell Santa you've been a good boy. But like I said, this has all my recommendations. You will not regret this purchase. Not only is it a video game, like I mentioned, it's a great centerpiece of whatever room you put it in. And whenever we're allowed to have people back in our homes for parties and things of that nature, this will be one of the aggregation points. People will come and play and hang around this machine. So I think the ROI on this is going to be great. So don't feel bad. Again, it is $500, but instead of buying a non-existent PlayStation, buy this instead. You'll probably get a lot more fun out of this one, at least in the short term, until we get PS5s in stock. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hit like, hit subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We'll see you next time. I'm gonna get back to playing. Peace.